is the Dery Bros Tribecast, a podcast for diehard Cleveland Indians fans. Presented to you by WaitingForNextYear.com. Now, here are the hosts, Matt and Todd Dery.
And we welcome you in, everybody. Another week, another successful week of Indians baseball, another sweep of the Detroit Tigers. And the Tribe finds themselves 7 games above 500, a season best. We welcome you into the Tribecast. Matt and Todd with you. Todd, it was fun yesterday down at the ballpark again. The return, the debut of Bobby Bradley, Leonis Martin DFA'd. We got a lot to talk about, but the fellas are playing good ball. It helps that they're playing a AAA team, but you got to win those games. They're on the schedule, and the Indians took care of business.
We talked about that this week, last week in the episode. First of all, good morning. This is a early morning recording for us.
These Mondays are rough.
These Mondays are rough, yeah. So we apologize for the morning voice. But anyways, it is really nice to play the Tigers 19 times. It was just like it was really nice playing the White Sox last year 19 times. This team is trash, and you know what? You only can play who's on the schedule in front of you. And the Indians took 3 last weekend in Detroit and took 3 this weekend at home against the Tigers. And they're probably playing their best baseball that we've seen all year. And now finally, as we will discuss in this episode, the roster is starting to take shape in its proper form. So it's a beautiful thing.
It is, and we'll get into it. The roster taking shape. Again, Leonis Martin let go yesterday. We'll get into that decision. Finally, Bobby Bradley is here. The resurgence of Jason Kipnis we'll get into. We'll preview the week ahead with the Royals. Todd, I will say this about Bradley yesterday, and you were there, and I want you to kind of let the listeners know what it was like down there for his debut and big number 40. I mean, it's just such a menacing prospect that you look at and see out there. But I do want to add one thing. I mean, the kid makes his major league debut, and first at bat, 99% of the time, that's a fly out to deep left. Christian Stewart is a joke in left field. He does no arm and can't find the baseball. I mean, yes, the Indians hit the ball hard. The comeback on Friday night down 5-2 against Matt Boyd was impressive because that kid is one Tiger that has a lot of value and is really good, and that was impressive. But I don't know how many times over the last 2 weekends we've seen Detroit help Cleveland out when it came to defense and extra outs. But the Indians are taking advantage of it. They're having fun. But like I said yesterday, the Bradley thing, anybody else in left field, he's probably 0 for 3, 0 for 3, 0 for 4 in his debut.
All right, well, let's give the guy his due, though. And in all fairness to him, as our father would tell us, that was a line drive in the box score.
That's right.
Okay, so yes, it was a deep fly ball to left, and it carried, and Kristen Stewart made a terrible play out. But, well, first of all, he comes up to the plate, great ovation from the fans yesterday, really great. I've been critical of the fans, and so have you. When I was watching last night and all weekend with Albert Pujols back to St. Louis, that's the reaction they gave was unbelievable. But the fans were great with Bobby Bradley. Every time he came up, there was loud ovations. When he doubled, standing ovation. When he scored the run on the Plawecki single and error, and he got to come home, and he kind of slowly got to jog home from third, Bradley, everyone stood up and cheered for him, and the crowd was really good yesterday. Great crowds all weekend, by the way. I think I want to say they had at least, yesterday was 25, and I think they had 30 plus on Friday and Saturday, so that was encouraging. But yeah, Bradley, he didn't look overwhelmed at the plate or overmatched, which was good. He's a monster up there. And he also, let's not forget, he was facing a lefty, which, he's a left-handed hitter. But I think he acclimated himself well. And I'll tell you another thing that was good. Played first base, Carlos DH'd, and, not that he had that many chances or opportunities, but Zach Plesac, who was great, who we'll talk about, picked the guy off in I believe it was the second inning, and you could tell that he and Bradley had that chemistry and that they had done that before down in AAA.
Yeah, you mentioned Plesac, another good outing, a rough first inning, and then got out of it. Savali on Saturday, Aaron Savali coming up from basically Akron. Let's call it what it is. He only made two starts in Columbus. It's showing, and for everybody that gets on, Churninetti for, the lack of bringing guys up, for the lack of positional players in the system, all of a sudden you look out and you see, if you're sitting like I am in Detroit and you're going, man, we have nothing here with the Tigers. Nothing. Absolutely nothing, other than some hot named pitchers that will be up probably next year. As far as positional players, there's nothing. But you look at the Indians over the last month and a half: Mercado, Plesac, Savali, Bradley. There's legitimate guys in the system, which is fun to see. And the question that you can ask is, here's Todd saying, we're finally seeing this roster put together. Well, what took so damn long? And that's what's probably frustrating for a lot of fans.
It's definitely frustrating for me, but you got to give the Indians front office credit, like you said. This goes back to the draft in 2016. The Indians took Aaron Savali in the 3rd round, Shane Bieber in the 4th round, and Zach Plesac in the 11th round. That's the same draft, and that's not that long ago. And these guys are now, Savali went back down after his 1 start because they don't need a 5th starter, but this is why the Indians are trying to do what, I would listen to the A to Z podcast with Zach Jackson and Andre Naughton, and Andre discusses this all the time, and he always says he thinks it's impossible to rebuild on the fly, but the Indians are trying to do the impossible and rebuild and contend at the same time. And the reason why they feel that they're able to do so is because you have Savali, Bieber, Plesac, Clevenger under contract for a while, despite the fact that he's hurt and it looks like he's only going to miss the 1 start and he'll be back. You got those 4 guys. Kluber's still under contract for a couple more years. Jeffrey Rodriguez, who it's funny, this weekend I was thinking about it when I saw the stat about Savali, Plesac, and Bieber being in the same draft. I forgot that Jeffrey Rodriguez was even around.
Right.
It was like he was in the rotation. He was doing great. They really needed him, and then he got hurt, and we haven't even heard an update about him. Have you noticed that? Like, normally we're hearing updates every once in a while, like this guy's on a throwing program. I even heard Danny Salazar update again.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. But we've heard nothing about Cousin Jeffrey. But in the meantime, that's I think that's the huge part of the reason why the Indians believe that they can, with this influx of young talent, like you said, with Bradley and Mercado now up regularly, and Naquin playing pretty well, and Luplow playing pretty well. That platoon seems to be working out decently in right field, and that you know how much I dislike Naquin, but I can't argue with his results of late. He hasn't made a game-saving catch Friday night, which was and hit a homer off a lefty. Right now I can't hate on that platoon. It's essentially 2016 Lonnie and Geyer.
Yeah, and the way they're playing right now, and it's the Dery Brothers Tribecast, Matt and Todd Dery with you, brought to you by our friends at waitingfornextyear.com. That's where you can find the podcast, and of course, grooveride.com and Groove Ride. A great place to go work out where Todd goes. This is exactly what Tito wants. This is how he likes it. Everybody contributing. Nick Goody on Saturday, or was it Friday? It was Friday with the bases loaded, nobody out. Bauer's got nothing. He has to take him out. Goody comes into a 5-2 game or whatever it was, and it could have gotten out of hand, really out of hand. And with the bases loaded and nobody out, and gets out of it. Like you said, Naquin making a diving catch and doubling up Christian Stewart the other night, which was an incredible play in the 9th inning, where Brad Hand had nothing. Guys are picking guys up, other guys up. This is the way Tito draws it up. He loves this. And, rebuild on the fly. Is it really a rebuild on the fly when you're finally getting rid of veterans that suck? Hanley Ramirez sucked. Carlos Gonzalez sucked. Leonis Martin hit under 200. Great story. We loved Leonis, blah, blah, blah. Came back, nearly died. And it was a good story. And he did occasionally, with his launch angle swing that he adjusted to a couple of years ago, jacked a few over the wall. But that's about all he did. He killed the Tigers. That was about all he did. So, replacing those guys with replaceable or above players and getting Kipnis heated up, all of a sudden it doesn't. I guess it's a rebuild if they have to trade Bauer, which everybody expects them to do. But I think these younger guys are better at igniting something here. And when, like you said earlier, when we're playing these bad teams, you've got to take advantage of it, and that's exactly what the Indians are doing.
Yeah, you saw it a lot. First of all, the fact that Oscar Mercado is now playing center field where he belongs, and we don't have to worry about Leonis in the lineup as long as we have, is a huge plus. I mean, you could just see it. Leonis has had nothing, so they designated for him for assignment over the weekend. This comes on the heels, and the Indians say it was unrelated, and I truly believe it was unrelated. The dugout argument where in Texas on Thursday afternoon, where Leonis kind of dogged it for a ball, misplayed a ball in center, dogged it, picked it up, missed the cutoff man.
Not kind of dogged it. He did dog it.
Yeah, and Frankie Lindor, who is this team's leader and continues to show that on a daily basis, got in his face about it in the dugout, and Tito loved it. Tito didn't get involved. This is the game of baseball. These guys police each other. It didn't get out of hand, but Frankie voiced his displeasure, and that basically was I'm not going to say the beginning of the end, because the beginning of the end was that Leo couldn't hit the ball for the last month and a half, and Oscar Mercado showed himself obviously to be the center fielder of the future here. So that was, like you said, that's addition by subtraction right there. Now the roster still, even though Bradley is here now, there's still going to be more tweaks to come. I still don't understand why they're only carrying the 4 outfielders when you could and the bench is still short, when you could clearly be using Greg Allen on this roster as a switch hitting bat off the bench and
defensive replacement.
And defensive replacement and a right-handed bat, to start on occasion, because we don't have any right-handed, like when against left-handed pitching, it's basically like only right-handed bat is going to be either Roberto if he's not catching, or Plawecki. And to me, I don't need Josh Smith, the 4th left-handed reliever. I said this last week. I'll say it again. Why do this bullpen has been so good and so deep, and the starting pitching's been so good. You don't need this many relievers. It's ridiculous to carry 4 left-handed relievers. No,
it is. It is. By the way, why doesn't this team go out and get a right-handed power bat? Sorry.
Yeah,
how does Geraces do that with that pepperoni? Sorry.
Yeah. But in the meantime,
why don't they widen the lanes on Chagrin?
That's a good bit. I don't understand why this weekend Schmidt was brought up. He didn't even pitch.
Never does.
You can't tell me Greg Allen wouldn't have been used, because he would have been. So that's the last remaining tweak. Before Bradley came up, the move to me was always this: you DFA Leonis, send down Josh Smith, bring up Bradley, bring up Allen, and then your roster is set the way you want it to be.
It would be said, and I think, like you said, carrying 9 relievers. I know Tito loves it, but with this starting staff and how they're going right now, and with the Royals this week, and then the Orioles. We'll talk about the Orioles, actually.
How about the schedule?
Oh.
Royals, Orioles, and Tigers. I mean, this is what we talked about. Heading into after that stretch where they played, the Yankees and the Twins and Boston with the Reds mixed in there. This is where the Indians make their hay. This schedule up until the end of July, when they have to play Houston, is ridiculously soft. I mean, here's what you got coming up. Okay, so we got the 3 against the Royals.
Yep.
A day off on Friday, I'm sorry. You got the 3 against the Royals. A day off on Thursday. 3 against Baltimore, who's terrible, worst team in baseball. Another day off. 3 against Kansas City, again, another day off, and then 2 with the Reds before the All-Star break. And then after the break, you got the big 3-game series with Minnesota. But then it's Detroit, Kansas City, Toronto, Kansas City. So, I mean, this is where you make your hay. This is where the Indians have to make their push. I think the Red Sox, really it comes down to the wild card. I still think catching the Twins is going to be a tough thing to do. But the Red Sox, I know they won 6 in a row last week, but if
that was against Baltimore.
It was exactly. But if they were smart, like the Yankees in 2016, while they knew they had a good team, that was their one opportunity to trade off some guys and reset the deck a little bit because they did not make the playoffs. And what did that do for them, right? They got them. They got Gleyber Torres for Aroldis Chapman, and then they got Clint Frazier for Andrew Miller. And they kind of reset things, and they got rid of some of their higher priced veterans who kind of petered off, and they started rebuilding with their younger talent. And then you saw Judge, and then they ended up getting Stanton and all that, and now they are where they are. The Red Sox are in that position right now too, and I think that this is their chance to do some selling off, and they may fall back out of it. So I really think it comes down to the Indians and the Rays again, and. This is
in a one game playoff, because right now Tampa Bay has the first wild card. We in the playoffs, bitch. Woo! We're like half game up on the Rangers, and we saw Texas this week, and Texas isn't healthy, but yet Elvis they have a good team. Their pitching isn't anything special, but they have a good team.
Yeah, but again, I don't believe that they have the staying power that the Indians do. I don't.
Not with their pitching. No,
exactly. So I think this next month, heading up until the end of July, is going to it's basically 5 weeks. This is the key stretch for the Indians to continue to play. Hey, best record in June in the American League, 14-6.
Yep,
playing great baseball.
All right, so Bradley, so you kind of set the scene for us yesterday with Bobby Bradley, and I follow, I forgot who it is, maybe Let's Go Tribe or one of these podcasts or websites, and they were talking about the expectations for this kid because he had 24 home runs. He's never been a top 100 prospect in baseball. It's not like we're bringing up Babe Ruth here, but it was time. It's been time to bring him up, see what he's got. Yeah, he'll strike out a lot. So does everybody. And it's an upgrade. And it's a guy that maybe moves up in the middle of the order eventually that is feared by the other team. I mean, again, you got to compare, contrast what we've trotted out there over the first 2-3 months of the season when you had Hanley Ramirez hitting cleanup. You had Carlos Gonzalez hitting cleanup. You had Leonis Martin leading off at the start of the year. So to see what Bradley has, and if he's a K machine, fine. But if he's occasionally going to, bang a few over the wall and provide that fear factor for the other team, knowing, we can't put anything near the plate, he'll hit it out. What's wrong with that? He's 23. It's time. I mean, 24 home runs in AAA, and every day going on the Clippers Twitter feed and seeing two bombs a day. It's more than time. And again, and fans could say this, and many of the Dolan's Jeep crowd will say it. But it's true, Bobby Bradley doesn't make a lot of money, so it's not like wasting $1 million on Hanley and $2 million on Cargo.
Exactly. Now, it was a couple of different pieces. I know Michael Bodie, Waiting for Next Year, wrote a piece, and the boys over at Everyone Hates Cleveland wrote a piece. Basically, and I feel the same way. We've kind of, as a fan base, have built Bobby Bradley up into this mythical, he's going to come up and be the savior. And I tweeted this yesterday and over the weekend, Indians fans need to temper their expectations on what Bobby Bradley is. Like you said, he was never a top 100 kind of, top tier prospect. I know, he's been a top 10 Indians prospect for a long time, but I don't want everyone to come up and to think that he's going to come up and this is Albert Bell 2.0. I mean, really, truly, this is more Jesus Aguilar on the left-handed side. So I just want everybody to temper their expectations. He's got the massive power, but it's been talked about a lot. He also swings and misses a ton. This has been easily his best year in AAA. And he does have that massive power, and that's something that the Indians have badly needed, and I think he will be fine. But I just don't want everybody to get way ahead of themselves and act like this guy's going to be the second coming, because we're only inevitably going to become disappointed. So, a good comparison to him, you see what Yordan Alvarez is doing in Houston. Yordan Alvarez is a way more highly thought of.
Oh, yeah. He's a top 10. He's a top 10 guy.
And you were on the Yordan Alvarez train for a long time and wanted, if Trevor Bauer was going to be traded, that was the way you wanted to go. And if you've seen it, He's hit 7 homers in his first 12 games. The guy's been killing it for Houston. So I don't think they're trading him, number one. And I don't think in this current situation, I don't think Bauer would be traded to a team that the Indians would potentially have to meet up with in the playoffs. But then again, you never know. But I really think it's important for Indians fans to temper their expectations with Bradley.
Matt and Todd with you, Dery Bros Tribecast for another week on a Monday morning. Indians and Royals this week for 3, and then like Todd said, in Baltimore over the weekend. We could talk about Bradley all day here, but let's be honest. The guy kind of lighting this fire a bit and starting up the barbecue is Jason Kipnis. I don't know what's going on. Apparently last Saturday, it was the game I was at Comerica Park. He was horrible. 0 for 5, couple of rollovers, the usual strikeout on a high fastball, weak pop-up. And it's like, oh, God, there's shitness again, not Kipnis. And then, he said he got back to the hotel or something, and he figured out a hand placement thing on the bat, or where he had his hands was wrong, watched tape. And since then, last Sunday, cleanup Kip. And then in Texas, he was hot. And then this weekend, the blast to center field with oomph and with confidence against a lefty. I don't know how to explain it, but hopefully it keeps going.
Yeah, we're going with cleanup Kip, baby. I love that nickname. So since Kipnis, quote unquote, found something with his hands, he's 10 for 24 with a pair of homers, 10 driven in, and he's walked 4 times. So when he is hot, as we know, Kip changes the entire dynamic of this lineup. And it lengthens things out, and it gives another guy who's actually feared in the lineup, and that's certainly going to help when you have the young guys, Bradley and Mercado and the platoon of Lonnie. I almost just said the platoon of Lonnie and Geyer again. The platoon of Luplo and Naquin. So it's obviously makes the Indians much better when a guy who you've been counting on to perform actually is performing the way you'd like him to.
It's unbelievable because it's just a complete 180 from what he's been most of the year, most of last year. And, we love him, and he was a big part of the 2016 run and everything else. It's incredible what he's done recently and how he's hit the baseball, and even the defense has been pretty good. Todd, there's something you really can complain about?
Yeah, his range is obviously never going to be great again. Okay, but he hasn't. I want to say last year his defense really looked terrible to me, and he wasn't moving well, and the arm has never been great, but he's been passable, put it that way. I have been very critical of his defense over the years, but I feel like this year I haven't remembered saying, oh my God, he is a statue over there, the way I had in the last couple of years.
And hitting a pair of home runs in one of the games against the Rangers this week, and with Thursday we had that awful effort, and Jose not running out of ball and everything else. But it's been Kipnis that's kind of gotten the guys going, and Mercado too at the top of the order, hitting in that 2 spot's just been sick. But I like the fact even yesterday, 6-3 game, needs some insurance. Kipnis serves one into left. Wasn't trying to do too much with it. Wasn't trying to pull it. Man, hopefully he bottles this up and it continues. Hopefully it's not just because he's been playing against the Tigers and Texas is pitching outside of Mike Minor, and this continues. But boy, oh boy, you could tell how popular he is with his teammates. It's his last year, unless somehow, some way, he were to sign some minor league deal to come back. You never know.
Yeah, that's another conversation for down the road. I don't see that happening. Yu Chang is now healthy again and playing second base in AAA, so they're moving him around. But I think that will probably be the way they go next year. But it's just good to see Kip hitting the ball and really providing something that the Indians have sorely needed from him all year.
Dery Bros Tribecast, Matt and Todd. Indians 7 games above 500, which is the highest they've been all year. Second wild card spot is the Indians right now by a half game over the Rangers, and I believe it's a game over the Red Sox. Get the Royals for 3 starting tonight. Pletko against Ben Keller, who's actually a pretty good pitcher. Are you going tonight?
I am not going tonight. Wednesday's my day.
Bieber and Sparkman on Tuesday, and then Jacob Junis. Doesn't it seem like the Indians have seen Jacob Junis like 8 times already this year? Against Trevor Bauer on Wednesday. What about Bauer, Todd? It's pretty obvious to me that Trevor Bauer. I'm not saying he's pitching like he knows he's being traded, but he's not the same guy. And he was fantastic last Sunday against the Tigers, and then followed it up Friday and had nothing. I'm assuming, the end is near for him here.
His 2 previous starts, he was great, but he has not been the Trevor Bauer that I think you and I both were on the he's going to win the Cy Young train at the beginning of the year, and
sure.
He obviously has not been that great. But I will tell you this, and the more you see these interviews after games and read these quotes from the young pitchers, his value added to this organization off the field has been unbelievable with these young pitchers. Zach Plesac gave him credit yesterday after his start, saying that he worked with Trevor, looking at film, and they found something that helped with a little tweak. Savali even said that he talked to Bauer briefly. I know that Bieber has worked with him closely. You know that Clevenger's worked with him closely.
Loves him.
And loves him and swears by him. So I think that the value that we're seeing there is obviously more than just what he's providing on the field. But yes, I agree. I think he knows the end is near. It wouldn't shock me, as I said earlier, if he was traded at the beginning of, right at the trade deadline, or, worst case, I don't know how he will be on this team next year when he ends up, arbitration-wise, getting somewhere between $8 and $20 million. But on the mound, I'd like to see more from him. I want to see more than what we saw, obviously the other night when he had nothing. As I said, the previous 2 starts, he was great, but I think he'll be fine. I agree with you. It's probably in his head that, he doesn't know where he's going. But at least he's passing on that wisdom to the young guys who are going to be the future of this rotation.
And the thing about Trevor Bauer is, this wouldn't be some cheapening out move to get rid of him. And yes, you never want to trade a guy that has Cy Young stuff and has become a leader with the pitching staff. But how much do you really want to pay him next year in arbitration? He hasn't had that great of a year, and this team, while we're lathering up in the Tribe spread this week, still needs a couple more bats. It still does, and the way to get those bats is Bauer. That's just the way it is. You look up and say, okay, they brought up Mercado, they brought up Bradley. Who's next? Man, we bring up Eric Haas. He'll blow up here. I'm not necessarily sold on that yet. So that next move is to get a Renfroe or a Reyes from the Padres, or Alvarez from Houston, or wherever you would go, or Frazier from the Yankees. And Terry Pluto loves writing about that. The way to do that is to trade Bauer, and you trade from a strength, which is starting pitching. Savali's your 8th starter if you really look at the depth chart, and he came up and threw a shutout the other day. Not that, again, it was against the Tigers, and God, they're pathetic. But the kid looks like he's got good moxie and knows what he's doing out there. So there's a really good, deep pool of pitchers, that I'm not saying could definitely replace Bauer 100%, but wouldn't wet themselves and look bad. And that's what good general managers and good front offices do, is they deal from a strength.
Yep, I agree. And it is pretty incredible that Savali, like you said, I know the Tigers are trash, but to come up, home park, adrenaline's pumping, go 6 scoreless is really, really heady stuff. And Savali's more of a back-end guy, back-end of the rotation guy, but listen, the future's there. The Indians definitely have a lot of young, controllable starting pitching, and Bauer's the guy to deal if you're going to need a bat. I refuse to believe that you should deal Brad Hand, especially knowing that the Indians are right there for the playoffs, for a wild card spot. And, unless someone is willing to give you their top 5 prospects or something, I don't see how you can do that.
No, I agree with that. And it's funny watching Savali and now watching Plesac over the last month or so. the Indians keep bringing these guys up, and they're not embarrassing themselves, and it's exciting. When we were growing up in the 80s, the Indians never brought up a rookie pitcher, and he blew people away, or he had good stuff. He always got rocked around, and we went, oh, another bullshit prospect that, Gabe Paul brought us, right? I mean, this is like, it's fun to watch. It's fun to see. It's not like, and again, it's not like everyone around baseball, except for Petter Gammons, is talking about Zach Plesac and all these guys, but the Indians organization seems to know something about, especially young pitchers and how to mold these guys. It's refreshing.
Gammons really was lathering us up all weekend. I think it's that Savali went to Northeastern, and all these Boston guys are like really talking him up. I saw Morosi that talk him up too, which was interesting.
The Pope loves us. The Pope's a fan.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, things are good. I feel good about where this team is going, and now I'm headed in to see the great Dr. Ben Ornstein, DDS.
It's dental. It's dentist. It's a dentist Monday.
Yes, it is. He is a fan of the podcast, though.
By the way, spent yesterday at Cedar Point. Lots of Tribe jerseys. I was very surprised. Very surprised.
Oh, well, you didn't see a lot of Tigers gear?
I did not.
It used to be when we were kids and we'd see Pistons Bad Boys stuff nonstop at Cedar Point.
That's right. No, it was a lot of Tribe gear, a lot of tats.
There you go.
All right, buddy. Well, let's keep this momentum going. When are you going to be at the ballpark this week?
Just Wednesday. Wednesday's the only day I can make it. Work's got me. So Wednesday I'll be there, though.
All right, buddy. Enjoyed it as always.
You are the best.
There he is, Todd Dery. Matt and Todd Dery, the Dery Brothers Tribecast for another week. Brought to you by, and you're listening to WaitingForNextYear.com. Indians 7 over 500, 42-35. 3 with the Royals, 3 with the Royals, 3 with the Orioles on the road over the weekend. And we'll talk to you again next week.